good evening. You're right in time for breaking today news right here in Switch TV. I am LINCOLNWAMBUGU. Our sign language interpreter is Michael Matthews. Send in your feedback and comments to our SMS line 111 the Switch TV Kenya and the LINCOLNWAMBUGU on all social media handles. Our 30 minutes of the broadcast begins now. The Kenya Film Classification Board, KFCB, has banned the release of the film I Am Samuel, arguing it is not suitable for viewing by the Kenyan audience. The 52-minute gay-themed documentary directed by Samuel Muremi promotes homosexuality contrary to Article 165 of the Penal Code, and the film's end stage plays at Cup 222. Flora Limuki with his story.
As the Kenya Film Classification Board, KFCB, continues to ramp up the efforts to champion for clean and safe content in the country, the board has now restricted a Kenyan-made film named I Am Samuel, which depicts gayism.
The 52-minute gay-themed film, I Am Samuel, is restricted. For the avoidance of doubt, restricted in this case means that it is prohibited from exhibition, distribution, possession or broadcasting within the Republic of Kenya. They want to push those values here.
In an exclusive interview with Switch TV, Christopher Mbua, the acting chief executive officer for KFCB, says that they are working tirelessly with other agencies to ensure good content is circulated on social media platforms, even as the 2022 general elections approaches.
Parents to have interest in what their kids are consuming, both from the traditional media and the social platforms. And that is something that we will continue propagating so that the message sinks in to parents, teachers, guardians, and even the youth and children themselves.
At the same time, a section of Kenyans have taken to social media supporting the move by KFCB while strongly shunning the immorality portrayed in the film.
Let us campaign in a very responsible manner, not hurling insults at each other, because you know, if we do that, our children are watching.
I'm not alone.
This is the second film to be banned in Kenya on the basis of homosexuality after Rafiki was prohibited in 2018. Flora Limuki, Switch TV.
Thank you, Flora Limuki. I'd like to hear your take on the ban on homosexuality-based movies in Kenya. Now, as Kenyans await to exercise their democratic right to vote in their preferred candidates on August 9, 2022, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has decried lack of funds ahead of the general polls. However, the Anglican Church has backed the commission, piling pressure on the National Treasury to sufficiently fund the electoral body. Maram Jahid with the story.
The Anglican Church, led by the Archbishop Jackson Ole SAPIT, is calling out the government to fund the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, for smooth preparation for the coming 2022 general elections.
Bajeti tunauliza vitengo vya serikali hasa treasury iweze kuwapatia pesa kwa wakati mzuri, ili tusije tukawa na hali ambayo tutasema IEBC watakuja dakika ya mwisho kusema hatuko tayari. Tunataka wajitayarishe kuanzia sasa mpaka siku ya uchaguzi, kwa sababu utayari wa IEBC ndio itahakikisha Kenya itakuwa na amani na tutakuwa na uchaguzi wenye uhuru na haki kwa kila mmoja wetu, na hiyo ndio itatupatia amani katika taifa letu la Kenya.
This comes a day after the commission decried underfunding by the treasury with a deficit of 14 billion shillings.
And again, the fact that we got the first tranche of funding this financial year puts us again in that last-minute rush to start procurement, and this then constrains our activities in the electoral cycle.
As campaigns gears on, the Anglican Church of Kenya has reiterated the ban on politicking in church, further warning politicians to avoid divisive politics on tribal lines.
Kwa hivyo wakija kuabudu wakati wa siasa na wakati wasio wa siasa wako huru, lakini hawana nafasi ile ambayo watatumia kanisa kama mahali ambayo wataenda huko mbele na kutoa matabishi ya siasa.
The Archbishop Ole SAPIT noted that the strained relationship between President Uhuru and Deputy President William RUTO might polarize the country, hence they're ready to mediate them. It's 10 months to general election, and IEBC is at crossroads to ensure that general elections are free and fair despite challenges surrounding the preparation of 9th August polls. Mariam Jahid, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mariam Jahid. Amani National Congress Party leader MUSALIA has called on Kenyans who haven't registered as voters to take advantage of the upcoming mass voter registration exercise by the IEBC. Mudavadi added that the largest constituent of Kenya's demographic consists of the youth, insisting that ANC party will address the challenges facing Kenyans. According to Mudavadi, an economic revolution is needed in Kenya, citing the heavy public debt and unscrupulous expenditure in the public sector without strengthening the private sector has affected the growth of the economy.
Kwa hivyo sasa ajenda yetu ni campaign, vile nimesema, ajenda yetu ni kuunganisha Wakenya na ajenda yetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunalenga mambo ya uchumi, ndio vijana wetu wapate ajira, waweke pesa mfukoni. Juzi nimeona hata wale wengine wa vyama vingine sasa hata slogan, siku hizi unasikia kila mtu wameingia kwa slogan yetu. Sijui kama mmetazama kwa runinga. Wakienda huko mwingine alisema amani, uchumi bora. Nadhani ilikuwa wiki hiyo. Na juzi nimeona mwingine upande wa Makueni. Yeye sasa anasema uchumi bora, pesa mfukoni. Sasa nikasema kumbe sisi ndio tumeweka mtindo mbele.
President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday reminded Kenyans to play their role in safeguarding the country's security. According to President Kenyatta, the safety, freedom and prosperity of the country are not a preserve of the state's security machinery alone. Emmanuel Terer with more details.
Alighting from the military plane, donning this military regalia, President Uhuru Kenyatta arrives at the Kenyan Navy base Manda Bay in Lamu County. He is warmly received by the Defense Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma and other military commanders, as is the norm. It is the date that was set aside for the presentation of the presidential and regimental colors to the Kenyan Navy at Manda Bay base in Lamu County. According to President Kenyatta, Kenyans should play their civic duty of securing the country.
And I therefore call upon all our communities and the leadership to collaborate with security agencies to achieve the success that we all desire as Kenyans.
The head of state says the frontline military installation plays a critical role in defending Kenya's sovereignty. The commander-in-chief authoritatively inspecting the just launched military-based trauma center.
This base at Manda is a critical focal point for our sacred national duty of defending our sovereignty.
General Robert Kibicho is the chief of the Kenya Defence Forces.
Manda Base has truly earned Your Excellency's recognition due to its centrality in support of operations both within the Lamu archipelago and its environs and across the border.
Present at the colorful ceremony was Navy Commander Major General Jimson Mutai, Defense Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma, and Lamu Governor Fahim Twaha, among others. Emmanuel Terer, Switch TV.
Thank you, Emmanuel Terer. A week after a petition was filed through Advocate Nelson Havi, arguing that the action by the Ministry of Education to implement the new curriculum is unlawful and prejudicial to the future of the children of Kenya. The church has, however, condemned the proposal made by the president of the Kenya Society of Atheists to scrap off religious studies.
Have already put a lot of resources and a lot of time has been put into place. We did not want to bring more confusion as a church. All what we wanted to say is that the implementers ensure that it is implemented in the best way possible so that we don't create confusion of going forth and back.
Moving on, Deputy President William Ruto has condemned supporters of the Building Bridges initiative, saying they must avoid misleading Kenyans by claiming that the bill was the only way to elevate revenues to the counties. Majibu Kitsa with more details.
Speaking at his current home, Deputy President William Ruto has said counties can still gain more funds through Parliament and not the BBI, which he termed as insincere.
How selfish can we be as leaders that we want to prioritize positions for ourselves?
At the same time, the second in command went on to fault the BBI for undermining the Big Four agenda.
Those who pushed BBI on us, we demand an apology from them. We demand an apology from them because they sabotaged the Big Four plan that was supposed to create jobs, millions of jobs for ordinary people.
On the other hand, UD aspirants in Nairobi have decried being sidelined by top officials in the party as they called on the DP to be on the lookout and not heed to individuals who are self-centered.
Hiyo maneno ya deputy president airudie tena, sisi ndiye tutajenga serikali na kama sio sisi tujue basi hii chama inatudanganya.
The 2022 political contenders further drummed up their support for the DP ahead of the polls next year, just less than a year to go. Majibu Kitsao for Switch TV.
Thank you, Majibu Kitsao. Police in Embu East Sub-County yesterday seized over 3,500 empty bottles of assorted illegal alcoholic drinks as a crackdown of illicit liquor and contraband goods enters day 3 in the county. At the same time, one woman has been arrested in connection to the haul over after she was found cleaning the bottles in a river within a forested area in Maranga sub-location. The suspect is being held at Runyenjes police station and assisting law enforcers to nab the persons behind what they believe is the existence of an illicit liquor manufacturing den.
Kusema ukweli ni kama inauswa sehemu kubwa sana, kwa sababu mwenye anatajwa si mtu wa Embu East, anatoka kwingine. Sasa kile hatuelewi ni kwamba anakuja kuchukua hii pombe anapeleka kwingine, ingine anauza hapa kwetu ama inafanyika namna gani. Lakini tuko kwenye harakati ya kuhakikisha kwamba popote alipo tutampata, na hii habari nimewaeleza ni ushirikiano ya mashirika ya serikali, idara zote zinahusika na masuala yanahusu usalama.
Sema ukweli, hii kazi peke yetu hatuwezi bila kusaidiana na wananchi. Kwa sababu wananchi ndio wanakaa na ile watu ambao wanatengeneza hiyo pombe haramu. Wasipo saa zingine kutusaidia kutupea habari hatutaweza, na saa zingine ndio wanaharibu, tunashindwa kukamata kwa sababu wakisikia tuko mahali wanaambia watu wanatoroka.
Well, that story from Embu County takes us to a short commercial break. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Now, the burden of the cost of living continues to overwhelm Kenyans, leading to talks by leaders across the board urging the government to consider cushioning its citizens. Today, ACK Archbishop Jackson SAPIT has asked the top leadership to consider imposing laws on tax relief for Kenyans. Shilling reports.
The genesis of the current predicament of the high cost of living in the country can be pointed to this day, 20th September 2018, when the then majority leader to the National Assembly, Aden Duale, fought tooth and nail to impose a 8% VAT on petroleum goods. While being seconded by the minority leader John Mbadi and Narok Member of Parliament Soipan Tuya, once again they aided the president's use of his veto powers. And in what is a change of heart, Duale spoke against it during this week's National Assembly sitting on the rising cost of fuel in the country, which ultimately affects the cost of living.
8 years, used that power, the veto power, 4 times. President Uhuru Kenyatta has used more than any other president, over 35 times. So, Mr. Speaker, the country must know it's not 78 shillings of every liter we buy of fuel goes to taxation.
And with the effects of the rise in fuel prices being felt, church leaders continue to voice their concerns to the government to cushion Kenyans.
To a task relief for Kenyans to be able to manage their livelihoods, but also to immediately find ways of reducing fuel prices because Kenyans cannot cope with it.
With the back and forth of the fronting of the VAT increase bill in Parliament, which has caused the rise in the cost of living for Kenyans, the question remains to be, will these parliamentarians heed to calls of passing laws for a tax relief? Shilangatich, Switch TV, Nairobi.
And from the business desk, LPG consumption has grown rapidly in Kenya in recent years as import and distribution infrastructure improves. However, market penetration remains very low. As our senior business reporter Cliff Ndubi narrates, in the coming years, stakeholders believe the primary constraint on growth will switch from access to supply to affordability, resulting in slower demand growth in the near future.
For the past few days, the energy sector has been on the limelight due to the increase in fuel prices. Come July 1st, 2021, 16% value-added tax was imposed on LPG products.
Now what will happen is that any item that has VAT imposed on it, that will be passed on to the customer. So to the companies, it may be increased working capital, but the person who actually feels that burden the most is the end user, because eventually that translates to an extra amount that they pay than they were paying before.
The use of LPG at homes, educational and health institutions has been on the rise from 148,000 tons in 2015 to 312,000 tons in 2019, according to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority.
The consumption in the country actually doubled, largely due to the move by the government and the industry players to popularize LPG as a source of clean energy. By 2020, there was almost 320,000. So the consumption had actually doubled. And there is room for that to grow to cover the entire country.
As the sector grows, so are cartels infiltrating the sector, where over 50% is in their hands, making major losses to the sector stakeholders. Not only that, some of the industry players have said that the illegal LPG refill market is growing owing to the increased benefit of evading formal and taxable channels.
Who are utilizing their refilling capacity for illegal activity, who also are using their trucks to transport illegally refilled LPG. There is always room to improve on it, because as they're still doing it, the system is as good as the players in the industry. So as long as we still have dishonest and unscrupulous businessmen out there, even with the best of efforts from EPRA, there will still be people who are interested in a quick buck.
With energy comes climate change. Organizations and governments are championing for production of clean energy.
When it comes now to other ways of now greener movement, we are engaging in a solarization campaign.
With Kenya now having multiple LPG import terminals in Mombasa and transporting LPG by rail and trucks into the interior increasing, there is a very huge gap in households using LPG-related products and other alternative energy sources where LPG is safer and cleaner. Clifford Ndubi, Switch TV.
Thank you, Cliff and Duby. As the world awaits to mark World Tourism Day on Monday the 27th, Kisumu County has used social media platforms to stay afloat from the shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic as the sector recovers. Archie Ojani, Kisumu County CEC for Tourism and Sports, Arts and Culture, believes that going forward, Kisumu County will use digital media platforms to sell its unique attraction sites. Ojani is now calling on Kenyans to embrace visiting local tourist sites to boost the sector's income as well as market the country internationally. Take a look.
That was already comfortable with digital. And so I think it became more prevalent now that if you are talking to yourself in your little office, you're just doing that. But if you want the world to know who you are, you had to get onto social media. And we decided that Kenya has a lot and we just haven't been making noise about it. So COVID gave us the opportunity to really, talk the Kenyan story. On Monday, we will be, the focus of that day for us will be this inclusive development. What does it mean? To us, we've narrowed it down to collaborations, networking, and partnerships. And that's what we want to focus on. And then the youth, we cannot leave them behind. Anyway, they're not allowing to be left behind, thank God. They're forward, they're innovative, they're very much running this event. We're on the move. We're not stopping. People sometimes raise concerns about what happens when the elections come along. The next one is in August next year. And we're saying we're focused on development. And the people of the region can now see a clear path. And we do not envisage that there will be any of the usual tension.
And from the sports desk, as the Kenya Premier League prepares to kick off on the 25th of September, newly promoted side TALANTA FC are keen in ensuring they stab a positive mark